Welcome again, traveler. You've found your way to stillness, where ancient footsteps echo softly through the sands, and whispered stories rise with the wind. Tonight's tale is one of thirst, not just for water, but for something deeper, something eternal. It is a story told beneath a burning sun, but we'll unfold it beneath the stars, slowly, gently, until revelation feels like rest. She was a woman, nameless to some, scorned to many, but chosen by God to be the first to hear something the world had been waiting for. Tonight you'll walk with her to Jacob's well. We'll begin with daily life in Samaria, hot mornings, heavy jars, and quiet isolation. Then we'll step into her story, the conversation that changed everything. We'll pause to wonder, why this woman? Why this hour? What is living water, really? And then we'll contrast her quiet encounter with the loud rejection from the religious elite. Let your breath steady, let your shoulders soften, and come to the well. The sun is high, the world is watching, but here in the silence, truth will be spoken. Daily life in Samaria, jars, stairs, and the weight of the noon sun. Imagine yourself waking in Sychar, a Samaritan town pressed between dusty hills and ancient tradition. The morning begins early before the heat arrives. The air smells of dry earth and crushed olives. Birds stir in the fig trees. And in the homes built of mud brick and stone, the rhythm of daily life begins. You are a woman here. Your tasks are many, but they rarely change. Sweep the floor, knead the dough, heat water over a flame. Listen for the breath of children. Keep your eyes low in the street. Most of the women go together to the well at dawn. They walk in a quiet cluster, talking, perhaps laughing softly, filling jars as the sky turns gold. But you do not walk with them. You wait until the sun is high, until the crowds are gone, until the risk of a sideways glance is less than the ache of isolation. At midday, the road is quiet, too hot for chatter, too bright for comfort. Your clay jar is heavy even before it's filled. You carry it anyway. And so you walk step by step toward Jacob's well. The well is old, older than kings, older than the temple, older even than division between Jews and Samaritans. It is a place of meeting, of water, yes, but also of stories. Jacob met Rachel at a well. Moses met Zipporah at a well. Wells are not just about thirst, they are about timing. And so here you are, sweat on your brow, dust on your sandals, jar balanced at your side. You expect silence, you expect solitude, but someone is there. He is Jewish. You can tell from the fringe on his robe. His face is tired from travel, but his eyes, they do not look away. And before you can retreat, before you can lower your gaze, he speaks. Give me a drink. No judgment, no laughter, just need. You pause. Not because you don't have water, but because you don't expect kindness. Not from a man, not from a Jew, not from anyone. And yet he asks, you've carried many things, shame, rumors, names that weren't yours, but now you carry a cup. And something in his voice makes the burden feel different. Not lighter, but seen. This is the rhythm of your days. Quiet labor, long walks, shadows behind lattice, whispers behind hands. But this moment is not part of the rhythm. It is an interruption, a divine one. But for now, you don't know that. For now, you're simply a woman with a jar at a well in the heat of the day. And you are not alone. Biography, the conversation that changed the world, he doesn't speak loudly. There's no crowd, no miracles, no disciples nearby. Just you and him and the sound of wind over dry stone. "Give me a drink," he said. You responded cautiously. "How is it that you, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan woman, for a drink?" Centuries of division are packed into that question. The rift between your people is long and bitter. Jews avoid Samaritans. They don't speak to them, certainly not at wells. Certainly not to women, certainly not to you. And yet he stays. "If you knew who was speaking to you," he says slowly, "you would have asked me, and I would have given you living water." You frown. The well is deep. He has no bucket. "What is this living water?" You ask cautiously. He replies not with answers, but with mystery. "Whoever drinks this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst. It will become in them a spring welling up to eternal life." His voice doesn't rise. He's not selling, persuading, demanding. He's simply inviting. You want that water. Not just because it means fewer walks to the well, but because something in you is tired. Tired of carrying shame. Tired of being alone at midday. Tired of thirsting for something you cannot name. So you say, "Sir, give me this water," and that's when the conversation deepens. "Go," he says. "Call your husband and come back." Your breath catches. You respond carefully, "I have no husband." And gently he nods. You have spoken truth. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you are with now is not your husband. There is no threat in his tone, no accusation, no disgust, just a mirror. A truth-telling, and somehow that feels like mercy. You've never met him. He knows your whole story. Not the one people whisper, but the one you've carried in silence. You shift the conversation nervously, perhaps. You bring up religion, mountains, temples, where worship should happen. And he answers, not as a Jew, not as a Samaritan, but as someone beyond. The time is coming, he says, when true worshipers will worship in spirit and truth, not on this mountain, not in that temple, but from within. And then he says something no one expected. "I am the Messiah," he tells you, not the rabbis, not the priests, not the kings or scholars. You, a woman, a Samaritan, a story surrounded by shame, are the first to hear the truth spoken plainly. "I am he." The disciples return. They are confused. But you don't wait for their questions. You leave your jar, your burden, the thing you came for, and you run back to the village, back to the people who never truly saw you, to tell them, "Come see a man who told me everything I've ever done. Could this be the Messiah?" And because of your voice, your courage, your witness, they came, they listened, and many believed. not because of doctrine or bloodline or tradition, but because of a woman who met a man at a well in the heat of the day. Mystery. What is living water, and why her? Living water. It's a phrase he used, but what did it mean? The Hebrew scriptures spoke of water in many forms: a gift, a judgment, a symbol of God's Spirit. Prophets described streams in the wilderness, rivers flowing from the temple, and wells springing up in parched lands. But this water, this living water, was different. It wasn't for the body alone. It was meant for the soul. It was refreshment that could not be drawn with a bucket, a spring that rose from within. The rabbis taught that the Torah was like water, life-giving, cleansing, sustaining. They said those who studied it deeply drank from God's wisdom, but he wasn't offering her a scroll, or a sermon, or a set of rules. He was offering her presence, a divine presence that could dwell within, a presence that would quench what nothing else had: shame, loneliness, longing, the ache to be known and still loved. And why her? Why not a scholar? Why not a priest? Why not someone with a cleaner story? Maybe because she knew thirst, because she didn't pretend not to need, because her life had carved out the space where a living water could finally flow. There's a mystery too in when he spoke to her. It was midday, not the hour of prayer, not the Sabbath, not during a feast or festival, but in the heat, in the silence, in the margin of the ordinary day, divinity appeared. Not in thunder, not in lightning, not in temple splendor, but in a quiet voice beside an old well, speaking to a woman whose name we were never given. There is also mystery in what she left behind: the jar, the symbol of her daily task, her reason for coming, her burden. She left it behind. Why? Maybe because she no longer needed to carry what she once did. Maybe because she became the vessel instead, carrying the message, carrying the water, carrying the word. That is the mystery of living water. It flows into empty places. It rises in the silence. It finds those who are overlooked and fills them until they overflow. The woman at the well, V.S., the religious elite, she met him at a well, quietly, unexpectedly, with no position, no invitation, no preparation, and yet he revealed himself. Contrast that moment with the ones who were supposed to see clearly, the scribes, the Pharisees, the ones with scrolls and seats of honor. They asked for signs. She simply listened. They debated his lineage. She ran to tell others. To them, he spoke in parables. To her, he spoke plainly. To them, he posed questions they couldn't answer. To her, he answered the deepest one before she asked. They brought stones. She brought testimony. They clung to control. She dropped her jar. The religious elite were protectors of tradition, guardians of purity. They knew the law, upheld the festivals, recited the prayers, but many of them missed the presence, the living, breathing word standing in front of them. And she, a woman, a Samaritan, unaccompanied and unclean in their eyes, she became the first evangelist. It was not the temple, but the well. Not the priest, but the outcast. Not the scrolls, but the silence that held the sacred revelation. This contrast is more than social commentary. It's spiritual rhythm. It reminds us that God often speaks in the unexpected moment to the unexpected person with unexpected grace. The woman at the well had no authority, but she had experience. She encountered truth living, breathing, transformative, and that was enough. More than robes, more than rituals, more than titles or heritage, she walked away not with status, but with truth. And that was all she needed. The well is quiet again. The sun has shifted. Shadows stretch long across the stones, and the woman is gone. But her presence lingers, the echo of her footsteps, the ripple of her story. A woman with no name in the text, and yet her voice carries across time, not loud, but clear. In her story, there is no thunder, no parting seas, no mighty battles, only a conversation. One moment, at a well, but for her, it changed everything. She came with a jar seeking water for the day. She left with a witness carrying water for the world. And maybe that's how the divine meets us most often, not in spectacle, but in stillness, not in power, but in presence, not in those the world celebrates, but in those it overlooks. Tonight, as you rest, may you remember her story, not as a symbol of shame, but of clarity, courage, and calling. May you find your own well, your quiet place, your gentle encounter, your moment of living water. May the voices that once silenced you grow still. And may the voice that knows your name rise gently in the night, soft, true, and full of grace. Sleep well, you are seen. You are known, and you are never alone.